You got anything to drink, sir?
Got waters. Water? Liquor, man.
I got a water. I don't want no water.
What you want?
I want a drink.
I ain't got no drink, right?
He's requesting.
All right. There you go.
All right, I'm just gonna hold my phone, man. I'm just gonna hold my phone.
Can you hear us?
You hear me?
Yes, sir. We can definitely hear you. How's it going?
All good, man. All good.
Mike James, Rod Strickland. I don't know what type of like introduction. Y'all know what it is. It's Sarah Podcast. Probably the craziest handle in New York history. I gotta say that. Swag, fresh haircut. Y'all already know what time it is. You know what time it is. Mr. Rod Strickland on the check-in.
He got the salt up there, yo, but he's still the OG. He's still the GOAT with the salt.
Yo, Rod, I'm gonna keep it real though. Like you like the one from New York that gave us like the swag when we went to like other cities and other states. You know what I'm saying? The haircuts, the swag, the style, the up and under.
I appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? And we want to give you flowers. We appreciate you. We got NBA champion Mike James on the check-in.
Sure.
And
my God.
You already know what time it is. Talk that talk.
My guy, he knows it. And I was telling you the story. And I don't know if Mike, if you recollect this the same way, right? So Miami, right? They were bringing me in and letting you go, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember? I felt like we crossed paths in the locker room, coming in and out. I don't know, but that's just like
no. We had like a little crazy conversation. You didn't know that I just got cut. Yeah, and I'm leaving like that, out, right? And you coming in like, where he go?
And so then you left, and I'm there, and so I came in. I wasn't in the best of shape. I'm trying because they picked me up late, and so I wasn't. I was struggling a little bit. I mean, we brought Mike back, and once Mike came back, then it was a different ball game. Now we playing, we competing. I was starting, but then Mike is gaining traction fast. You know what I mean? And so his minutes are increasing, mine are decreasing, or whatever. And I just recall like that happening. And to me, Mike, and I always tell this story because I feel like, how they say like sometimes people get a chance in the league or don't get a chance in the league that's good enough to be in the league, or they just didn't get the right opportunity. And I always look at that like if I didn't get like if I wasn't in shape or I played well, do you come back and get that opportunity, right? Because once you came back and you did your thing, then you go to Toronto and you get paid, then you go to Detroit and win a championship. And I feel like that's like a story a little bit to like, if you didn't get, you were supposed to be in the league, right? You probably were supposed to be in it before that, right? But if it didn't align like that, would just struggle to like maintain and get there, been hard, right? When it shouldn't have been, because you was the most competitive dude I've been around. You know what I mean? You're a scorer. You had all the attributes, the skills, and all that. But that was just, I don't know. That was just I just think about that a lot. When I think of us.
Strick, I always make the statement, I gained the respect of my peers. I just didn't have the respect of the front offices. Yeah. I was always a third, fourth guard in their faces, but my peers was always like, man, respect him when you out there because he can go. And, the funny thing is, when I came, you was the first person that really, like, showed me how to be an NBA guard. I remember when I first came back to the team, all I saw, I was hungry, I'm young, I'm sitting there looking at you like, man, he old now. He ain't really like that. I'm about to take his position. And the funny thing is, I started when I first came back picking you up 94 feet. But what you didn't realize was I stopped picking you up 94 feet and I would pick you up, not even at the half court, like at the 3-point line, because I was always afraid of what you was about to do to me. You used to embarrass me so much in practice, and I would always be like, how does this dude keep scoring on me? And I mean, wasn't the fastest, wasn't the most athletic, but being able to get to the rim, what do you equate that to? How did you get so talented and so skilled? Because I know as a young bull, I wasn't letting nobody, you know, come, and for whatever reason, I couldn't even look at a screen. If I look at a screen, you would kill me, and you was old when you played against me and you dominated me.
Well, you know, it started evening out after a while, so let's be clear. But no, I mean, just coming from New York, right? You play in the summer leagues as a young kid. You got the wind blowing. You know, New York City was guards. You trying to break guys down and get to the cup. And I was a big Dr. J fan, George Gervin fan, Magic Johnson fan. So, you know, I studied and watched the flips and the trick shots, Pete Maravich, all those kind of guys. And, you know, back then we went out in the park, and it was just consecutively trying to do different things. And I studied the backboard, and I played with the backboard on different angles just on my own. That was like my creativity. My brother always tells me I should tell a story. You know, we're in Mitchell Projects. I'm in a little apartment in a small hallway, and I would put 2 newspaper baskets up. I ball up some paper. I write a scoreboard, put it on the wall, you know, and I would create who I thought I was, Dr. J, Magic Johnson, creative shots. And I think a lot of it was just like the creative mind, just like I wanted to try something different. And it was good for me because I created an advantage because I was kind of awkward.
Let me ask you this, Rod. Coming from the city, was DePaul your first school selection that you wanted to go to?
Yes, it was. So I had UNLV wanted to speak with me, Georgia, Syracuse was in there, Pitt. I almost went to the University of Pitt with Charles Smith and those guys. But DePaul, I was a big DePaul fan. Just because they got up and down the court, they were a transition team. Kenny Patterson, I was a big, and just now that I'm thinking, and I just did another podcast, All the Smoke, and we were talking guards in New York City. And I hate talking like that because you forget people. And now that I'm sitting there talking to y'all, I'm like, I didn't mention Kenny Patterson. I didn't mention Ed Cota. I didn't mention Shaheen Holloway. I didn't mention Andre Barrett. You know, and, you know, yourself. Like, it's so many. But anyway, so DePaul was just, I love their style of play. They was from Chicago. I idolized Kenny Patterson. You know, Mark Aguirre was there, Terry Cummins. They were on national TV all the time. So back then, we didn't have all these stations. So DePaul was on NBC or CBS like 7 times a year, which was a lot. And then they were on WGN every game. So I was on national TV every game. So that was a big reason.
You want to go ahead?
Go ahead, man.
I asked you that question because I remember, like, back then, like, we're from New York, but the Big East was like the place to go. Like, you know how it is, like Syracuse, St. John, Georgetown. Yeah. Did you get like any heat from not going to the Big East?
No. I wanted, for whatever reason, I wanted to get away from New York. I don't know. I don't even know why. It wasn't like this something I really thought. I just, for some reason, I guess I'm from New York. Let me try something different. Right. So, you know, I went to Chicago. And St. John's, I want to say Mark Jackson was there. Syracuse Pearl was there. Villanova. I forgot Villanova because my high school coach.
Okay.
We won a state championship. Then he got the assistant coach job at Villanova. So I had considered Villanova as well. But I wanted to get away.
You know, you keep talking about how you want to get away from New York, but you seem like you're always finding your way back to the crib. And so let me ask you, what was it like, man, being drafted by New York, even though you know that they got a guard already? And how was that feeling being back home? Yeah,
it was weird. It was awkward, you know, because obviously I'm being drafted, and I'm being drafted by my hometown. But they have Mark Jackson, who just was Rookie of the Year. I just finished watching him in my dorm rooms, like, kill him. And so you know, Mike, you come out, I want my own team. I want to be the starter and all that. So Mark being there, you know, it was weird just because I wanted to be a starter. And I knew, I mean, I got Mark Jackson in front of me, you know, and he had already established himself, rightfully so, deservedly so. And it wasn't like it is now, you know, in these days and time, we could have played together. But back then,
Of course.
it was like point guard, shooting guard, small forward,
Facts.
forward, center, and, you know, they couldn't see that. So, because I look back at it now, and I swear, I tell Mark this, I wish I was a little more patient, and I wish they would have played Mark and I together more. Because when they did it, we like electrified the crowd. Because, you know, we in open court guys. You know, we passing it back to each other, being unselfish. Like those times on the court with him was great. But the time sitting on the bench behind him was frustrating. It was frustrating.
Hey, Strick. Okay. Did you come into the league knowing that you was this great player? When did you know that you arrived in the game?
Well, I don't know if I think I've always had steps to kind of realize who I was or who I became. Because like in college, when I first went to college, I mean, I knew I was top 5, top 10 in the country, but I still, you know, you still had that next level, what it's going to be like. Yeah, I was confident, but I didn't thoroughly know. So each way I was testing myself. And when I got drafted, this is what I knew. I knew I wanted to be a pro. I knew I didn't want to be in college anymore. I felt I was good enough. Now it was a time to measure myself and see how good I was. Once I got to the league and started, you know, preseason and in practice, like I knew I was good enough. And then once I got in games, like I never forget playing against a guy named Frank Johnson, stocky, strong, tough defender. I think he was with the Nets at the time. And I had to go against him. You know, back then, when you come in as a rookie, there was a lot of older guys. It's not like now where, you know, all these young guys. So the strength was a factor. You know, they could put their hands and arms on you. You know, it was super physical. So once I realized I knew how to maneuver with that, then I was, you know, I felt super comfortable. And I hate to say it like this, but it almost felt easier than college because the court was more open, right? You had better players, better shooters, so the spacing is different. So now when you drive the lane and you get past one, if you throw that pass, that guy is most likely going to make an open shot. You know what I mean? So it kind of opened the game up a little bit.
It's funny because Steph was just on the show last week, and he said something kind of similar in the sense of like playing in the NBA was easier than playing in college. Take us through that transition, like you said, going from college to the NBA, and how'd you have to adjust?
Man, the adjustment basketball-wise was not an issue. But even like on and off the court, because to be quite honest, even in college, I probably was doing shit I shouldn't have been doing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, basketball-wise, it wasn't an issue. I just think, like, I don't know, how do I say it, man? It was just like a continuation of, like, things, the maturity part. You know what I mean? Trying to figure that part out, right? I don't know if I really knew how to be a professional. The court part was easy. Like players would be fine playing with me. Like I'm going to play the right way. I'm going to play hard. I'm going to do all those things. But, you know, the lateness, you know, those types of things, you know, the unprofessionalism is kind of what probably clouded things, you know?
Do you think that's what stopped you from being a Hall of Famer?
Absolutely.
And also limited you from the All-Star games that you deserve to be playing in?
There's absolutely no doubt about it. You know, like I said, I was all NBA second team and led the league in assists and didn't make the All-Star game.
I seen that. I Googled that.
Yeah, there was, I mean, but there were years where I could have made it. And I'm sure the coaches weren't voting. And I'm sure the league wasn't like filling me in, you know? And, you know, like I said, I got to take the heat on that one. You know, if I could go backwards, obviously I would. And I think if I was on the straight line, I would have been an all-star. There's no doubt about it. Plus, my numbers would have been different, right? So if you look at my numbers in the 90s and you put them with whatever point guard you want to put them with, they're comparative. I might have scored less, this or that, but
you was killing everybody.
But I bet you it's somewhere like 17 points, almost 9 assists, almost 4.5 rebounds, almost 2 steals. But then after that, because it became like I'm talking about with the Miami Heat. Every team that picked me up in my last 5 years, it was almost like, all right, we're 2-20 or we're 5-18. We need somebody. Let's go get Rod. But they not putting nothing into me. I'm a stopgap. So if things don't go well, they play the other guys. But that was the position I put myself in. And so now, because of that, those numbers start coming down. So when you see the final numbers, it might not look the same, But if you go by the first 12 or you go by the 10 years in the 90s, then you can, you get a better picture.
Let me ask you, top 5 players that bust your tail, that you can say, you know what? Because the funny thing is, you're in my top 5 because I never experienced like what you used to do to me in practice. Like you used to feel my heat, but you didn't understand that you had me. I used to have to try to disguise how you used to be killing me so bad in practice. But at the same time, I remember Tim Hardaway in a pickup game. He scored 15 straight on me. He made me put the shoes up for the whole summer.
That's one name that's coming out. Believe that.
Your top 5.
Hard to go top 5, but Tim Hardaway is absolutely up there. Tim was one of those guys, and I always say, like, some guys, they will kill you or they'll get at you. But then there was guys who had embarrassing factors, and those are the ones you had to try to go back at,
Facts.
But you had Tim, you had obviously AI, but he was younger coming in. But let me go by like kind of with me. You had Tim, you had KJ, Kevin Johnson, GP. GP could give you 25, 10, and 8, and 3 steals, and you don't even know he did it.
You don't even know it. Facts.
Like those 3. But then you got a guy like Nick Van Exel.
Ooh.
Yes.
Can embarrass you.
Yes.
Like if you don't come strap him up and you're not ready, like Nick Van Exel will embarrass you. That's so I can't think of, and this is why I hate doing this because when I get off, I'm gonna say, man, I forgot that, But those like 3, 4 come straight to my mind. And then you got the younger guys, you got the AI who, come on, was a problem. You got Steph, who you guys just had, who can, Steph, Tim, KJ, probably the closest things that, like that 20 and 10, like 20 points, 10 assists, like averages, like consistently, like they could do that. You know what I mean? They were capable of that. I mean, on the average. Now, forget when they give you 40, but just on the average.
Facts.
I wanna get into New York for a little bit. It's been so much hoopla. We had Steph on the show last week. We had Kenny Anderson on the show. We had Skip on the show. Mike James right here. So New York is in the building. And when Steph came on the show, he let it be known like Rod Strickland is Rod and Kenny. And after that, I don't know. I mean, we got you on the show, Rod. Who's your top guys in New York City?
I can't do it, man. Like I'm serious, man. I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. And this conversation is starting. This is our city. I feel like this is my city. Like I was born and raised. Like even the street ballers. Like we had to go out and prove ourselves every day out in the parks, right? And to become who we are, to be that 17-year NBA player, to have such a competitive way about me, that all came from there. So we get in these conversations like I had that conversation and I named names, right? So the crazy thing is I sat there, and I don't normally do this, but I put a list together because I didn't want to slay anybody. And as soon as I got on the podcast, I forgot about that list. I didn't even think to go to my phone. And so like guys like Ed Cota, I didn't mention, Shaheen Holloway, I didn't mention. And Ed Cole is somebody, and I've told him, like, I'm a super fan of his. One of the best passers, like we talk about Mark Jackson, those guys, right? Then you got Shaheen Holloway, who I went up to Seton Hall one day as a pro to play some pickup, and he tried to take my head off. Like one of the most competitive young guys I've stepped on the court with, you know? And then I got my guy, Andre Barrett. Now I'm going to see Andre. I'm going to see Dre and say I not mentioned him. And I skip from that, and I mentioned Cole and Kimber. Like, I ain't even mentioned Trey. Like, you know, then you got Omar Cook. So there's so many that I'm not playing that game anymore. I'll tell you, like, Pearl Washington was my inspiration. Like that was the first New York City guard that, you know, I wanted to be like him. And the in and out, you know, throwing the ball out in front of me in transition, sliding past the defender, you know, on the layup. That's Pearl Washington. I almost wanted to run like him. You know, I tried to be stoic in the face like him. Like, so Pearl was, you know, it. But then I was inspired by all these other dudes. Mark and Kenny is before me. So, you know, those dudes came in the Mitchell gym. And I just see these guys balling and Kenny Smith running, dunking real quick, Mark doing his thing. And then you got the guys after us, you know, the KAs, who I didn't even speak much about on the podcast because, like, we all know what he is, right? Kenny was it. I mean, he was the guy. And, you know, I mentioned all those other guys, but the Ed Coders, the Omar Cooks, Talik Browns, Andre Barrett, Shaheen Holloway, Adrian Autry. And I bet you I still forgot guys. And, you know, because I finally mentioned Boo Harvey. Like, I remember so many times not even mentioning Boo Harvey.
Nobody brought that name up. That's a fact.
But I'm going to tell you something else that was even worse. There were times where I wasn't even mentioning Nate Tiny Archibald, who I watched in my gym on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's hard when you're in these conversations. I was on a podcast with Esso and Heineken, and they asked me about my top rappers. And I mentioned some names, and then when it was over with, I'm like, man, I ain't mentioned Jada Kiss. I ain't mentioned Styles P or Sheik Luch. So there was so many. So this becomes a little uneasy for me because I don't, like, it starts becoming like you're talking about someone, but you're diminishing the other one, or you're not giving. And when I speak, I'm speaking on, like, from my eyes and my thoughts and views. It doesn't have anything to do with who's better and who's top, because I really don't care about that.
You know what, Strick? You know, let's talk about someone you do know, and that's your godson. You know, me personally, he's my favorite player in the NBA. Why? Because when you can handle the ball like that, you become a giant on the court, and you can get wherever you want on the court anytime you can. And only person I think I've seen handle the ball like him is you finish. Only person I've seen finish around the paint like that is him, is Kyrie Irving. And the one thing I want to ask you was you taking the time to teach him this stuff, or was he watching you? And was that just him coming up with his own understanding of the game and just taking what you was doing and then going and putting a Henny in it and running with it?
It was watching. Like, I mean, you know, he's obviously saw me, but he also has a father, you know, Dedrick Irving. Everybody calls him Drederick. That's his name, but we call him Dedrick. And Dedrick was nice. Dedrick played, and we come from the same cloth. So we learned the same kind of, you know, show, you know, layup, show with the right hand, finish with the left, show with the left, finish with the right. You know what I mean? The English off the backboard. So, no, I can take no credit for that. But there's always inspiration. It's like I told you, I sat there and watched Dr. J and George Gervin, right? So there's always inspiration. We inspire each other. We don't even know it, but there's always inspiration.
Rod, let me ask you, going back to New York for a minute. With, like, being from New York was the mecca of basketball at one time. Do you ever think it's going to get back to what it was?
I don't know, man. I don't even know if I want to, like, dig into that question because you know, everything evolves, things change. You know, I don't know what people feel about New York now. New York seems to be pretty healthy to me. We got a couple young guys going big time, and you know, so New York is moving. You know, I think there was one time where I think everyone was kind of worried about New York, But I think New York is back, and we have talent. We definitely have talent here, and we just got to keep growing it. I think we may be harping too much on New York and not understanding that the world has changed. Like everybody's caught up. There's where when we first, back in the day, we come from New York. You go to any city or state, we was like the boogeyman.
Facts.
Like somebody said Dave Edwards, and they're right. But they were like we were like the boogeyman. Like we was something. We had a style that was different. We came with a way about us. But everybody's like that now. You go to any city, state, or whatever. So we kind of talk about the New York thing, but the world is different. I mean, man, listen, we got all these Europeans in the league,
True.
and they're some of the top players in the league. So from what we know of as New York City, or what we think we know of as New York City, well, the world has changed, So everybody's gotten better, and everybody's doing what we're doing, So
Rod, you spent some time having issues with coaches, and now being on the other side as a coach, what is your mindset now as a former player now taking on that responsibility?
But I'm gonna say that I'm gonna correct that a little bit, right? Because I don't, and I'll fall on my sword in a minute, but I don't want to give, them that much, right? Because everybody's not the same, and everybody. So yeah, I might have had some issues with some coaches, but there's some coaches I got along great with.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
What I would say is that I know, like, being late, right? I don't know. Like, I used to eat popcorn and hot dogs before the game. Like I know there's some things that for a team just doesn't work. Or even hanging out too late, doing too much, right? So all those things that, you just going about your business, but you coming in and I'm giving you 18 and 10, doing whatever. But some of those little things are not going to work. It's not going to sustain. It's not going to last long. So I get that. I understand. Even when I first got to college, I was making some remarks. I was like, I want to go back and apologize to all my coaches. I was being funny about it. But, when you're on the other side of it, it's a different view, and then you mature and you get it. Like I'm the guy, like summer league, I'm coming in, I'm making sure I get there just in time to play the game, right? Or just in time to do 2 layups and jump on the court. I'm coming with my Air Force Ones on, and I just want to play because I want to just come up and play any kind of way, right? So the mindset was just a little weird, and it just wasn't all professionalism. You know what I mean? So yeah. I do understand it. I get it now. Yeah, I do, definitely. I don't know if I rambled on that, but I do obviously have an understanding of, those things not being professional and not always team friendly. But some of the coaching things, there was some coaches that I played with that was doing too much, trying too much.
Of course, of course. Still in the game today.
You know what I mean? Like some guys, think they could talk to you any kind of way just because, or play games with you. And one of my, I don't know, strength, weakness, whatever. If I felt you were being phony, man, it was almost game over. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times, like they had to play a game with you, right? To get you to do something, all the indirect stuff. And that would be a turnoff. And, I'm kind of off you.
What city did you enjoy playing the most? Washington, Portland? What city was like, this city's all right?
Mike, what you think?
No. Oh, you gonna say Miami?
No. I was gonna ask Mike, but no. Miami was great. Washington, I love Washington. Love Washington, D.C. My mother's from Baltimore, so I got a lot of family there. So I love playing for Washington. It was nothing like playing in Miami, getting out of practice, and it's like sunshine.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? Like that.
You just had to be The problem about playing in Miami is, as much sunshine and as beautiful as that city is, you got practice in the morning.
Right.
So the question is, do you indulge in the nightlife in Miami, or are you going to be ready for Pat Riley that next morning?
That's what I'm about to tell you. You know who was a party stopper? Pat Riley. Because you knew what you had to do the next day, right? And Mike, do you remember we used to have the keys to the bikes, and like he had it programmed? It's probably before all this technology.
No, we used to wear the things every morning.
Yeah, but you had the key, like, so if you were hurt, get on that bike. And you would probably rather practice than get on the bike. Like, so
no, seriously.
Pat Riley was a party stopper.
No, I remember Eddie Jones broke his foot. And he taped Eddie Jones to the bike and made him still ride the bike. He thought he was going to get out of practice, and he had to roll with his arms for like an hour. It was like, you know what? I'd rather practice and then be hurt with Pat Riley.
Yes.
This question is for both of y'all. I met Pat Riley one time, but is he that like intimidating though in real life?
Well, I don't want to say intimidating, but you're going to respect him. Right? So when I went to Miami, and like Mike talked about coaches or whatever, man, I fell in line with Pat Riley. You know, I fell in line with Pat Riley. I was in awe of Pat Riley. Like, I honestly wish I played with him more, just because, you know, when you got that respect factor, it's different. It's different. And one thing I loved about him and respected, you knew where he was coming from.
Yeah.
Whether you liked it or not. Right? So you didn't have to worry about assistant coaches or, you know, them playing game. Pat Riley's going to tell you straight to your face. I don't care who you are. And he's also a coach that if you win, he'll do everything for you. You're the best thing ever. If you lose, you're a piece of shit. And he's going to treat you accordingly. Am I right, Mike? Am I right,
fact,
Mike? So, like, I respected that because you knew where he was coming from. There was no games, no anything. So.
Hey, what about his, the one thing I always remember about him is his motivational speaking. Yeah. I've never had a coach. I used to go into practice like, man, what is this dude going to say today? Yep. And then by the end of practice, I'm teary-eyed. I'm sitting there like, man, this dude gets me every time.
Yeah, no, he was good. But were you there, Mike, when he sat everybody on the baseline and he started talking to everybody? He was telling everybody, like, he was kind of calling everybody out because we were struggling. And I never forget, he told Alonzo Mourning, you know, like, you were the number whatever center 5 years ago, 3 years ago, now you're this, right? And then I remember him coming to me like, you were top 5, whatever, now you're like 37 or something crazy. And then he started talking about my shooting. So he starts, you know how he with his hands, he's looking at the paper and all that. And I remember him shouting out my 3-point shooting percentage. And he basically was like, what I'm gonna do with this? Like, what I'm gonna do? Like, and that was the first time any coach ever, except for Rick Pitino, my first year with the Knicks. He didn't care. But that was like in between that, probably the first guy that just was like straight at your forehead.
You know, you gotta respect a coach that's not going to hide behind the stars, but he's gonna hold everyone accountable. And that's the problem with the game today is, you know, in order to gain your respect, you got to challenge your stars first before you start cussing out the 14th and 15th person.
No, that's the fact. That's why Pat Riley, and it's so funny, and that's another story I don't even want to get into, but I could have had an opportunity to go back there, you know, probably a lesser role and all that, but I had an opportunity to go back there and I messed that up, searching for something else. And to this day, I'm like, I'm like, man, like, just bad move, Rod. Bad move.
You know, that's one of, I think that even in my career, that's one of my regrets was I should have stayed in. I don't know, because like you say, it's not always, God has an interesting way of how he does things, because it's not always, you know, what happens on the court. It's what's happening in the life and the lifestyle, and you start getting accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and then you can get immune. You can start, you know, indulging in the nightlife, but then getting immune to what's going to take place in the morning. And so you start getting used to it. And so, you know, things happen for a reason, but definitely, you know, that was one of my mistakes because I never experienced another coach like him in the game. And he will give you a chance to be able to perform.
Oh, Dad, somebody said, Mike, you were balling in Houston. So that just made, that reminded me. You was the one that got rid of me in Houston. So we talk about Miami, now we go full circle. I'm in Houston, and I'm playing. I'm an old head. And never forget, I'm heading to practice. I'm leaving my house, leaving my apartment, checking my answer machine. I get a call from Jeff Van Gundy. And he's telling me, Rod, we made, you know, we made a transaction or whatever. And he said, and I think he mentioned Mike James, so we had to let you go. This is on the way to practice. So as we talk about the Miami, we go full circle to Houston. So it's just ironic, you know what I mean?
Man, I wish you would have been there. I'd have loved it. Man, nobody really understands how great of a player, but not just as great as a player you was, but as great of a person you was. You know, you always got like a bad name and a bad reputation, but at the end of the day, you was nothing but top tier. Right. You know, as a veteran to me and as an OG also, even when we was out, you always like took care of me as like the young boy. And so I always respected you and definitely big ups to you, Strick.
Appreciate that, Mike. Appreciate that.
Strick, what advice would you give these young NBA players in the league right now? Just being in the league, the off the court stuff. We live in the social media era. Like, what would you say to them?
No, that's a tough one, man. It's so much. It's so hard for them. It's a whole different world now. But you know, you got to invest in your game and your family. Keep that circle as tight as possible. You know, there's a lot out here, but it's a lot of bad that's out here. And you know what they say, like moderation is everything. You're doing too much, you know. But I don't know, man. Stick close to home, man. Stick close to family. Have a plan. Know where you want to be at in 5 to 10 years. Know what you want everybody. Know how you want to be talked about when you end your career, right? Because if I could have went back and I could have said to myself, how do I want people to look at me, you know, when this is all over with? You know, I think you come out with different answers and you might move differently. But it's tough. Like, this world now is tough. You got social media. You got people that want to be mean just to be mean. You got people that want to, like, first of all, you can't even be flawed. Like, you can't make a mistake. You know how hard that is? You can't make, because we all make mistakes. You know, it's just everybody's not sat out in front of, you know, the world. So I don't, man, it's these young people. I'm glad I went through that back then. Because this to
man,
me,
can you imagine, man? Can you imagine playing now and not even the court life, the off the court life? You know, you going into different cities. You done met so many women on social media. You don't even have to know their telephone number. Now they be like, yo, just give me your Instagram.
It's crazy.
Like,
it's crazy.
Yo, it's like, and so it's so much easier to have access to get in trouble.
Yeah, it's right.
But now you got these women that are like predators. They Googling you. They know how much you make. And these young boys don't have the right people in their ears helping them. And now it's like, man, it's almost like they got no help on no side, especially if they don't have a team with them, a good team.
Yeah, because, you know, I always say, and it's worse now, they're making way more money, but every time you walk outside the door, there's someone trying to figure out how to get inside your pockets, right? That's a hard way to live. And that's, I mean, as soon as you walk out the door, somebody's trying to figure it out. And if you're not self-aware and if you indulge too much and, you know, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I know the NBA does more of a job and a better job of trying to help these young people, but it's tough, man. It's tough.
What do you think about the game right now?
everything. I mean, I enjoy the talent. I enjoy watching. It's just the only thing is, you know, when we played, there were different variations of basketball. So there was different teams who played differently, right? You know, you Lakers might run it up and down. Celtics might half court or run. You know, you got the Knicks, tough, grind it out. You know, Blazers run, but super tough and physical. So you had all these different, Phoenix up and down, but you had just different variations. Now, you know, a lot of it kind of looks similar.
Yeah.
You know, you just got your different players, superstars, but a lot of it looks similar. Like, you know, if you're looking at rotations, everything seems similar, the same. If you look at, you know, like you, for instance, Miami, Pat Riley, he would always like show on the ball hard, a trap, and he would do it all the time and force you to, you know, you got to hit the ducking guy or you got to swing it. But, and now you got, you know, everybody's pushing it over, icing it to the side, sort of rotations and everything is saying, you know, as the way you're playing, everybody's throwing it around the perimeter. So it just like, a lot of it looks similar. So when you're watching basketball, whereas I may want to watch 8 games back then, I may can only watch 1 or 2 right now, just because I'm going to see similar things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, there's so many, other than the superstars, the role players basically do the same things.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's the difference when we played, is the benches were the ones that would win the games. You knew your superstars were going to play a certain type of way for the night, but then it was always somebody coming off the bench.
I got to move a little bit because my battery might go dead, so y'all keep talking. I got to charge it up.
We got like 10 more minutes. We ain't gonna keep you, my Z.
No, that's all good. I just want to make sure I don't die on y'all.
Yo, let me ask you a question though. Do you feel like the Knicks are for real this year?
Man, the Knicks are tough. Like, I don't know how far they're going or supposed to go. I just don't know. I don't know if I watch enough like that, but I know from watching them, like, they're tough. Jalen Brunson is tough. Like, I honestly didn't know how good he was. Like, I mean, I knew he was good. He was a McDonald's All-American and all that. So it's not like I knew he was good. I just didn't know how good. Like, his footwork is amazing. Like, you just watch him. You know, his footwork is like in the post, but it's on the perimeter. It's like in the range. But his footwork is crazy. And Julius Randle has been playing well. They got the guy from Toronto who gives them that size and toughness, and he can hit shots and defend. And Tibbs, you know, he got him playing hard, and so we'll see. But I like what I see, and I think the Knicks have done a great job of kind of not trying to do too much too soon, finding the right pieces to put in there and to kind of grow it gradually. And then now all you got to do, maybe you pluck a superstar one of these years, and now it's a different ball game. But I like the direction they're going.
That's what it is. That's what it is. You got anything to say, Mike?
Man, I'm done, man. Strickland, he gave me everything I can give him tonight.
Mr. Strickland, Mr. Rod Strickland, I got to call you Mr. because when we was growing up, my cousin had your poster on the wall. Listen, I'm gonna keep it real.
That's crazy.
His dick poster.
Listen, he had the poster on the wall. Remember the Bomb Squad poster?
Yeah, I remember.
That's crazy.
He like 10, I'm like 7. He got the Rod Strickland poster. So this is dope.
Telling my
I don't
age,
take none of this stuff.
telling my age for sure.
Listen.
For sure.
Hey, that's funny when they be telling me about when they was in like 3rd grade, and they remember when I was playing. I was like, man, nobody want to hear that.
Yeah, I'm like, man, Mike had my poster, man. I'm old.
Yo, we appreciate you checking in. Rod Strickland, one of the NBA greats, my brother. Appreciate you. Much respect, much love.
Yes,
appreciate both of you guys. You already know. My God.
That's what it is. Say word.
All right.
Peace.